exactly. That's the that's the line that we usually like to put in. Legends change over time, and that's what Nintendo originally thought before. Uh, Legends change over time, and not necessarily the Prisoning War that we see in Link to the Past is not necessarily a step-by-step event that was in Ocarina of Time. And they do put that element in even until now. As you can see in Skyward Sword intro, they do the same thing. It's like they say there's an untold legend and stuff that you don't know which happened in between the major events. So yeah, it's really interesting that they did that with Link to the Past, and I'm happy with that overall. Avoid all complications. So the second thing they did in the classic games is feature an unclassic game, one of the modern games, which is the Oracle series, which is after Link to the Past, which is followed by Link's Awakening. This is really interesting in twofold. So we look at the Oracle step by step with the common elements that I said here. The Triforce in the Oracle series is in Hyrule. That makes a lot of sense when you're featuring it here, or it makes us interpret what happens in the Link to the Past in a very different way. One of the common debates in a Link to the Past is when Link touches the Triforce at the end of a Link to the Past, what happens? Does he bring it with him to Hyrule, or does it stay in the Sacred Realm? We're not really sure. We get this vague ending where the credits roll. I love the music at that ending. The Triforce is just, in the background of the Triforce is the Dark World, apparently, in which it transforms bit by bit into the Light World, or the Sacred Realm. It starts the background turns from brown to blue. So yeah, it's really cool. But we don't know where exactly the Triforce is, and we never know when. So even the Wind Waker doesn't give us when the King touches the Triforce in the Wind Waker. We're not sure what happens with the Triforce. Does it go away? Does it go back to Hyrule? Does it spread? Does it stay in the Sacred Realm? We're not really sure. So we could interpret from A Link to the Past is maybe, perhaps, or that's the most likely scenario, is Link brought the Triforce back, or not, he didn't bring it back, or it came, or maybe he did bring it back to Hyrule when he touched it in the Sacred Realm, which is why we see the Triforce in the intro of the Oracles in Hyrule, and that's what starts up Link's new adventures in the Oracles. He goes to the Triforce, or the Triforce summons him, and then he's sent to other worlds. So that's a really interesting aspect. It does make sense. And another thing that they did, or we're still not sure about until now, this is going to be like a common form of debate, is Link and Zelda and the Oracle series. I don't know, because before they put the Oracles there, the official developer commentary in the manuals is A Link to the Past is followed by Link's Awakening, and Link's Awakening and Link to the Past, they feature the same Link. Link just wants to the intro of Link's Awakening shows him sailing, going into new adventures, and then he stumbles into that island we all know and love. So yeah, the manual says that they are the same Link. Now with the Oracles put in between these two games, it's really debatable to know whether they're trying to say that these three games, Link to the Past and the Oracles and Link's Awakening, are the same Link in Zelda, or the same era per se, or are they in three different eras or two different eras. Let me further explain. Again, the Oracle's ending is a major point of debate as well. As I said before, the Oracle's ending, it does. Let me rewind my thoughts here. Another thing is the Oracles show that Link is an established hero, and he has the hero's crest. He has that mark of the Triforce on his hand. That's another very interesting topic to talk about. Does he have that mark because he saved everybody in the Link to the Past, or does the Oracles does it take place in a different era in which Link is already an established hero? So yeah, we're still not really sure what's going on here, but there are common elements that are talked about. One thing that we see in the oracles, at least the English version of the oracles, is that Zelda doesn't know Link, and that's one major topic of debate that shows, or suggests that the oracles are actually in a different era, because Link and Zelda should know each other from A Link to the Past. Link saved Zelda from the crystal, so they should know each other. It doesn't make any sense that the oracles is in the same era of the Link to the Past, and Link and Zelda don't know each other. Unless the Japanese version says something else, I'd like people to comment on that. Maybe they know more than me about it. So yeah, it's going to be a continuous talk of debate. And another thing that people like to use, and I don't like to use, is the end of the Oracles shows Link riding off in a boat. And a lot of people like to say, before we see Nintendo's official placement of it, they like to attach the Oracles to Link's Awakening just because of that element. Okay, Link rides off in a boat. That means that A Link to the Past, Link's Awakening follows up, because Link's Awakening starts off with Link in a boat. Technically, Link is in a raft, if you want me to, keep nitpicking, but I'm not going to nitpick that much, but I'm just saying that just because the end of the Oracles features a boat doesn't mean we have to immediately attach it to Link's Awakening. It's not but Nintendo did actually, I don't know if they took it into consideration, or maybe they did. Now it does make sense that the Oracles is followed by Link's Awakening, because, that ending in the Oracle games. And another thing that we want to talk about in the Oracles is Ganon. Ganon is featured at the end. When you beat both Oracle games, you see an unsuccessful revival of Ganon, and that's, again, it does make sense to place the Oracles here, because in Link to the Past, Ganon is surely dead. He's killed by the silver arrows and the Master Sword, or the Golden Sword, whatever. So we see those witches from Ocarina of Time trying to... apparently they're timeless, they don't age, or they're immortal or something, which explains why they're here, reviving Ganon, and unsuccessfully doing so. But at the same time, we don't know the repercussions of that unsuccessful revival. He does apparently die. I'm not really sure in the Oracles, but at the same time, if he doesn't die, it makes sense that he's featured in a different era, 100 years later, or hundreds of years later, in the original games, The Legend of Zelda and The Adventure of Link. So it does tie well in that placement over here. So yeah, like I said, the only point of debate in the Oracles is whether or not they are the same Link and Zelda, or the same era of the Link to the Past and Link's Awakening. We're not really sure. A lot of pros and cons. Like I said, Link is he's an established hero, and the Triforce is in Hyrule, and overall it's a good placement, and at the same time there's still points of debate that I'm not sure if the book shows it or not. We'll see, hopefully, as the days go by. So I think that's it with that part of the timeline. Let's go into the main branch here, and this is basically where Nintendo screws it up a bit, or not screws it up, but makes it really hard for us to explain or debate. I did talk about this a lot in the last video about the 4 swords, so let's see what they did here. Let's fill in the blanks. There we go. So what they did is followed up Skyward Sword with Diminished Cap and 4 Swords, and put 4 Swords Adventures right after Twilight Princess. And there's just a lot to talk about here. As I said the last time, let's talk bit by bit. Let's talk about the Minish Cap and the Four Swords first.